The flash drive exposed her husband's darkest secret. He wasn't just her husband. He was a predator. Even from jail, he's still watching her. Thanksgiving was just the beginning. The baby's father was the monster. Thanksgiving morning in that old Tennessee house felt just like every other year. A layer of cold dew on the lawn, the slow scent of stuffing rising from the stovetop, and the dining room table being set, waiting for the familiar chatter of family to fill the space. Lauren gently placed her hand on her belly. 6 months pregnant now, and the weight was starting to settle in. But today, she had made a decision. No stress, no drama. This day was about family. Mark, her husband, was in the kitchen glazing the turkey. He was smiling the same way he did every year. Warm, calm, predictable. Lauren told herself, he's still the man I married. Her brother Brian had shown up too. Surprisingly sober this time. The same Brian who used to drown in liquor 3 years ago was now going to AA meetings, holding a steady job, and actively raising his daughter Phoebe, whose full custody he had recently won. Lauren felt proud of her brother, and a little emotional. It was the first Thanksgiving he was spending with the family in years. Mark glanced at Brian and said, "Glad you could make it, man." Brian gave a slight nod. No smile, just eyes fixed on the table. Lauren felt a flicker of unease but let it pass. By 2 in the afternoon, everyone had gathered at the table. Lauren's parents, Brian and Phoebe, and Mark, all passing around their share of dishes. Brian served Phoebe a scoop of mashed potatoes, then gave her a small smile. And that's when Lauren noticed it. Mark's eyes were locked on Phoebe. Too long, too intently. She froze for a moment but pushed the thought aside. "Don't be ridiculous." Mark raised his glass. To family and to new beginnings. Everyone lifted their glasses. Everyone except Brian. His fists clenched on the table. Lauren's eyes drifted down to his hands. Her breath slowed. And then, in a sudden, jarring moment, Brian shoved his chair back, leapt across the room, and punched Mark squarely under the eye. A loud crack rang out. Mark fell to the floor, a glass shattered. Phoebe screamed. Lauren couldn't process what had just happened. "Brian!" she yelled. Brian's breathing was rapid, his eyes blazing red. Standing over Mark, he shouted, "Don't you ever look at my daughter again?" It was like time had stopped. Faces around the table went pale. Her mother froze. Her father rushed to pick up Phoebe, still crying. Mark lay on the floor, blood running from his cheek. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Brian shouted. "Don't ask me. Ask your wife. Doesn't she see what you really are?" It felt like the ground disappeared beneath Lauren's feet. Their mother tried pulling Brian away toward the front door. Phoebe clung to her grandma, shaking. And Mark, still on the floor, tried to act like the victim, wiping the blood from his face. Lauren stared at her brother, searching his eyes for answers. "Why, Brian? Why would you do that to him?" Brian replied, voice trembling, low and raw. "Because I saw him. That bastard was staring at Phoebe, and not like a normal person would." Lauren struggled to breathe. "Shut up!" Mark yelled, but Brian was already walking out. Lauren turned to look at Mark, his face bloodied, but his eyes held something beyond anger. They held fear. Phoebe buried her face in her grandmother's neck. Lauren looked at the girl, innocent, scared. And the question rose inside her. Is Brian crazy? Or is there something real we've all missed? She didn't speak for the rest of the evening. She bandaged Mark's face but didn't say a word. Mark simply muttered, "He was drunk. Lost his mind. You know your brother." But Lauren knew now. Something was off. Something deeper. That night, she pulled out her old pregnancy journal, the one she wrote in for her baby. She flipped to an old page. "Today, your dad bought you your first teddy bear. I was so happy." Then she stopped. Tonight felt like the opposite of that joy. It was cold outside, but Lauren's breathing grew heavier in the warmth of the room. Somewhere beyond the window, there was a soft sound, like someone watching. Mark was asleep. But Lauren? Her sleep was gone. Lauren's fingers were trembling. Mark was out. He'd said he'd be late at the office. For the first time, Lauren felt relief instead of worry when he said that. 2 minutes after he left, she went straight to his study, the one room no one dared to enter, especially in his absence. Clutched in her hand was an old flash drive, the one Mark always kept tucked in the inner pocket of his jacket. Today, that jacket was lying in the laundry room, and the drive, it was still inside, like it wanted to be found. The silence in the study felt different. Afternoon light crept in through the window, and Lauren's heart was pounding so hard the leather of the chair felt like it was echoing her pulse. She powered on the computer and slid the drive into the USB port. Unknown device detected. Lauren clicked the icon. A folder opened, named simply Backups. There were dozens of subfolders inside, some labeled with dates, others with names. One read, Phoebe_September. Another, Emily Yard Cam. And one more, Halloween 2022 Slow-Mo. Lauren's hands began to shake. She clicked on Phoebe September. The first file was a video, captured from a static angle, the kind you'd expect from a hidden nanny cam. It showed Phoebe in her room, searching for something, and then starting to change her clothes. Lauren froze. She paused the video immediately. Her breath hitched in her throat. She opened the next folder, Emily_Yard Cam. Another young girl, maybe the neighbor's kid, was playing in the backyard. The camera followed her every move, zooming in, staying locked on her. Lauren's entire body went numb. She turned away from the screen and rushed into the bathroom. Dropping to her knees, she threw up. Everything. The dinner Mark had made with love, the belief she once had in this marriage, the trust she'd carried day after day like a quiet poison. It all came pouring out. She grabbed her phone and called Brian. Straight to voicemail. "Pick up, Brian. Please pick up," she whispered, almost pleading. And then, the sound of a key turning in the front door. Mark was home. Lauren's hands shook violently. She yanked the flash drive out and slipped it deep into her sweater sleeve. She shut the computer down and sat in the chair, pretending to be flipping through old magazines. From the foyer, Mark called out, "Lauren? I'm home early. Forgot my tablet." In a low, steady voice, she called back, "I'm here. Just tidying up." She heard his footsteps on the stairs. Her heart pounded harder with each one. Mark reached the doorway and smiled. "Hey, you okay?" Lauren looked into his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't smile back. She just nodded. "Yeah, just tired." Mark's eyes drifted to the computer. He stepped closer and touched the monitor. "Did you use my system?" Without blinking, Lauren replied, "No, just dusting." Mark stared at her for a second. Then, without another word, he picked up his tablet and left the room. Lauren listened closely, the stairs creaking beneath his weight, the soft click of the front door. And then, silence. She slowly pulled the flash drive from her sleeve and looked at her reflection in the dark computer screen. There was no fear on her face anymore, only resolve. That night, Brian knocked on the door. Without a word, Lauren handed him the flash drive. He looked at her. "You sure?" Lauren met his gaze and said, "We're not waiting anymore. It's time to end this." Brian shut the door behind him. Lauren slid the lock into place, like she wasn't just locking the house. She was locking away the life she thought she had. Brian didn't just have suspicion anymore. He had proof. That flash drive revealed things that could no longer be ignored. Lauren spent the entire night with him, The two of them going through every video, pausing every frame, writing down every name. This wasn't just about family anymore. It had become a mission. A mission to uncover a predator hiding in plain sight. The next morning, Brian said, "If this isn't just about Phoebe, then we need to dig through Mark's entire system. He's a predator, organized, careful." Lauren nodded. The softness in her face was gone. In its place, fury, fear, and the awakened instinct of a mother. Mark had told her he'd be in a client meeting until the afternoon. That gave them a window. Lauren and Brian planned it out. They'd get into Mark's home office, access his computer, his external drives, and his network backups. Lauren quietly disabled the home surveillance cameras, without telling Mark. That afternoon, Brian slipped in through the back gate. Mark's office computer was password protected, but Brian had some tech skills. On the third try, the password cracked open. Phoebe 2009. Lauren's heart dropped. That year? That name? "That's the year Phoebe was born," Brian whispered. "He's obsessed." Once inside, the system revealed more than either of them were ready for. Encrypted notes, hidden drives, and strange applications named KidLog Pro, iCam Sync, and Secure Cloud Mirror. Brian started downloading everything: evidence, logs, chat histories, tracking files. Each name, each timestamp, each location. Then he opened a drive labeled LakeTrip_May_2023. The video showed 3 children playing by a lake. The camera was recording from behind some bushes. You could hear breathing. Mark's breathing. Tears welled in Lauren's eyes, but she held them back. "Don't cry now. We need to finish this." Brian transferred all the data to an encrypted hard drive. But just then, the sound of a key turning downstairs. "Mark," Lauren whispered. "Hide." Brian ducked into the guest bathroom, shutting the door gently. Lauren steadied herself, sat by the desk, and opened Pinterest, pretending to browse, forcing a smile onto her face. Mark came upstairs, unbuttoning his coat. "Hey, thought I'd surprise you. Missed you." Lauren smiled softly. "Oh, that's sweet. Want some tea?" Mark looked at her. There was something searching in his gaze, something uncertain. "Why are you using my system?" he asked. Lauren replied calmly, "I was trying to find that kitchen design you saved. You remember that farmhouse sink you liked?" Mark paused, then smiled. "You remember that?" Lauren nodded. "Of course." Mark slowly walked behind her, placing his fingers gently on her shoulders. "Did you find it?" Lauren pointed to the screen. "Here it is." He leaned in. For a second, she thought her heart might stop. Had he seen Brian's shadow under the bathroom door? Had he heard something? But Mark just nodded. "Nice. Save it for me." Lauren said, "Done." Mark casually walked back downstairs, opened the fridge, and called out from the kitchen. "We should do a weekend trip, Lauren." "Just the two of us." Lauren replied, keeping her voice warm. "That sounds lovely." Mark said nothing more. He opened the back door and stepped out into the yard. Lauren ran straight to the bathroom, opened the door, and whispered, "Go, now." Brian dashed down the stairs. Lauren stuffed the evidence into her bag and rebooted the computer, like nothing had ever happened. By the time Mark came back inside, Lauren was already sitting in the living room, reading a book. He asked, "Everything okay?" She smiled. "Everything's perfect." That night, Lauren texted Brian, "We have enough. Let's take this to the police." Brian replied, "Meet me at 9. Bring everything." Lauren packed the flash drive, the hard drive, and all backup copies into a bag. Before leaving, she looked once more at her daughter's ultrasound scan, that tiny beating heart on the screen. For her child, She was ready to do anything. Because now, the predator would not survive. The next morning, a light snowfall drifted through the cold Tennessee air, and a thin frost had settled on Lauren's windshield. She wiped it slowly, as if she were trying to clear more than just ice, as if she were scrubbing away silence, fear, and years of denial. Brian was already parked across the street, sitting inside his old Ford truck. He motioned her over. "You got the stuff?" Brian asked. Lauren silently handed him the bag. And it wasn't just electronics inside. It was truth. Truth that had burned quietly behind smiling photos and dinner conversations. Truth that had rotted into poison behind closed doors. "Let's finish this," Lauren said. They drove straight to the Eastfield Police Department, where they had already scheduled a meeting with Detective Maria Rodriguez. Rodriguez was sharp and no nonsense, a seasoned officer with years of experience in child exploitation cases. Her office smelled of strong coffee and quiet urgency. Case files lined the walls. The light was dim but focused. Like her. Brian placed the bag on the table. "We need your full attention on this, and your silence for now." Rodriguez unzipped the bag and pointed to the flash drive. "What's on here?" Lauren took a deep breath. "Evidence. Against my husband." Rodriguez plugged it into her laptop. As she opened the files, her eyebrows tightened. The room fell silent. For the next 20 minutes, no one spoke, except for the distant recorded voices of children echoing through the speakers. Finally, Rodriguez closed the screen. "This is enough for a case, and enough for an arrest warrant." Lauren's eyes welled up, but she didn't break. Rodriguez continued, "We're going to need to seize all his devices, phones, laptops, external drives, and secure your safety immediately. Does he own any weapons?" Brian answered, "He has a hunting license. Shotguns in the garage. He also carries a pocket knife." Without hesitation, Rodriguez picked up the phone and called it in. "We need a search and seizure warrant for Mark Behrens, high risk, may attempt to flee or destroy evidence. Also, initiate a domestic protection order for Lauren Behrens and her unborn child." Lauren asked quietly, "How long will this take?" Rodriguez replied, "A few hours. We'll move as soon as the judge signs." They had barely stepped out of the office when an officer rushed in. "Detective, we've got a situation. One of Behrens's neighbors just called. He saw Mark burning files in his backyard, then leaving with 2 backpacks. He's gone." Rodriguez cursed under her breath. "Damn it! He knew. He felt it coming." Lauren's face turned pale. "Where is he now?" "We don't know," the officer said. "But the neighbor got his license plate. We've got units tracking him." Rodriguez turned to Lauren and Brian. "You two are not going back home. You're going somewhere safe. Right now." Lauren whispered, "What about Phoebe?" Brian already had it covered. "My ex agreed to keep her for a few days. She doesn't know anything. And I want it to stay that way." Rodriguez pulled Lauren aside. "How far along are you?" 6.5 months, Lauren said. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Then you get 24/7 protection. He's erasing files, which means he's desperate, and desperate predators don't follow rules." She arranged for a secure safe house, a confidential location a few miles outside Eastfield. Lauren and Brian were escorted there immediately. On the drive, the police radio kept crackling. No sign of Mark yet. Possible vehicle sighting in the rural zone. Pinging cell signal. Inconclusive. Lauren stared out the window. Trees, snow, and a life she was now leaving behind. A life she once thought was normal. "Do you think he'll come for me?" she asked. Brian replied quietly, "He already is. The question is, when and how?" Rodriguez assigned a squad to the safe house and launched a search team to track Mark. But as night fell and more updates rolled in, no arrest yet. Lauren's nerves began to fray. Around 2 a.m., Rodriguez called. He was spotted near the ultrasound clinic, the one you go to. Lauren's blood turned cold. Brian slammed the door shut, pulled the blinds tight, and said, "He's hunting you, Lauren. And he's not going to stop unless we stop him." Rodriguez issued a restraining order and activated a full red alert. Mark Behrens was now a priority 1 suspect, but he was still out there. A shadow in the dark, and a mind laced with poison. Lauren realized something that night. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was a mother's war. Lauren was deep into her 3rd trimester now. A routine ultrasound was due, but nothing about this trip felt routine anymore. Every step was calculated. Every moment watched. Detective Rodriguez had assigned 2 plainclothes officers to escort them, one trailing in a lead vehicle, the other already inside the clinic disguised as civilian staff. Brian, now fully in protective mode, insisted on going with her. Lauren's mother, Eleanor, once stunned into silence, now refused to leave her daughter's side. Not today. They pulled up to the Eastfield Women's Health Center, an aging facility with modern machines but security in name only. Lauren's appointment was set for 2 p.m. She moved slowly into the building, her steps heavy, not just from the pregnancy, but from fear, the kind that lived under the skin. At the front desk, the receptionist greeted her with a soft smile. "Miss Behrens, here for your 30-week scan?" Lauren nodded. Her hands were clammy. As she disappeared into the hallway, Brian stood outside with Eleanor, who was staring across the street, eyes narrowed, breath short. "Something's not right," she whispered. "That car, I've seen it before, 2 days ago, on our street." Brian's gaze snapped to attention. A blue Dodge Caravan, thin layer of dust on the windshield. No one visible inside, or maybe someone crouched low, waiting. Then Eleanor gasped. "That's him. That's Mark." Brian didn't hesitate. He yanked out his phone and dialed Rodriguez. "We have a visual. Mark's here, outside the clinic." Rodriguez answered instantly. "Keep eyes. Backup's 2 minutes out. Do not engage." But Mark wasn't going to wait. The car door swung open. Mark stepped out, dressed in a black hoodie, gym bag slung over his shoulder. His face was twisted with a predator's rage. He didn't flinch. He just started walking, straight for the clinic entrance. Brian turned to Eleanor. "Stay here." He moved fast, but Mark had already clocked him. From his bag, he pulled a folded hunting knife and cable ties. Inside, Lauren was reclined on the exam table. Gel coated her belly. On the screen beside her, her baby girl moved, alive and kicking. Then the exam room door slammed open. A nurse rushed in, out of breath. "Ma'am, we need to evacuate now." Lauren blinked, startled. "Why? What's happening?" That's when she heard it. Mark's voice, loud, raw, and echoing through the clinic hall. "Lauren, come out, just you and me, no more games." The nurse grabbed her arm. Doctors followed. Alarms started blaring. Staff shouted orders down the corridor. Out front, Brian and the undercover officer intercepted Mark. He lunged with the knife, wild and fast, but Brian grabbed his wrist, twisted hard. The officer tackled him from behind, slamming him into the floor. Mark fought, shouting through gritted teeth. "She's mine! That baby is mine! You can't take her from me!" Lauren was rushed out through the emergency exit, her chest heaving. Inside her, her baby thrashed, feeling the panic, the chaos. An ambulance was already waiting. Rodriguez pulled up just in time. She walked up, her badge flashing, her voice cold and sharp. "You're done, you sick bastard." They searched Mark's vehicle. Inside, rope, gloves, multiple knives, zip ties, and a phone tracking Lauren's live location. Rodriguez turned to Lauren. "This wasn't stalking. This was a planned abduction. You were lucky." Lauren couldn't respond. She sat in the ambulance, shaking, as Brian climbed in beside her and took her hand. Her mother sat across from them, tears in her eyes. But her face, finally, showed something else. Relief. Lauren whispered, "Are we safe now?" Brian nodded. "We are. You are. And she is." Lauren closed her eyes, but inside her something still stirred, the shadow of fear that hadn't yet died, because she knew the truth about monsters. They don't die. They get locked in cages. Mark Behrens was behind bars now, locked in Cell Block D of Eastfield County Jail, classified as a high-risk inmate. The court had stacked charge after charge against him: child endangerment, illegal surveillance, attempted abduction, possession of predatory material. But the real horror surfaced when police searched Mark's home thoroughly, finding additional drives hidden in the basement's false ceiling. Drives filled with images of children, covertly taken, disturbingly captioned, and organized into twisted grooming templates. But Lauren couldn't sleep. She kept feeling like someone was watching her. An SUV parked in the building's lot for hours, a letter delivered with someone else's name but her address, and once, a package arrived addressed to Hope, containing a toy she never ordered. Rodriguez immediately heightened security around her, but the real blow came when a surveillance trace revealed that Mark, from inside prison, had been tracking Lauren and her daughter Hope's movements through a former co-worker. "His name is Daniel Kraus," Rodriguez told Brian, "former IT guy at Mark's firm. No record, but he's active, and we're watching him." Brian clenched his fists. "He's still trying to control her from a fucking cage." Rodriguez's voice was firm. "Predators don't stop with handcuffs. They adapt. And this one, he's got puppets." Lauren's mental health began to deteriorate again. She didn't want to cry on anyone's shoulder, but the shadow of that monster still crawled along the edges of her world. She started seeing a therapist, enrolled in postpartum counseling, but healing still felt distant. As long as safety depended only on the law. One night, Brian looked at her and said, "We need to leave. For real this time. Not just hide, vanish." Lauren looked at him. "Where would we even go?" "Oregon," Brian said. "Tiny town. My buddy's wife runs a school there. No one knows us. No one's looking for us." Lauren hesitated. But when Rodriguez confirmed that Daniel Kraus's digital activity had been traced near Hope's daycare, her hesitation vanished. 5 years of love, 6 months of fear, and 9 months of pregnancy. All of it was now being buried under a new name and a new life. Lauren sold her home. Every dollar was funneled into a trust fund under an alias. Eleanor agreed to go with them. Brian explained it to Phoebe gently. "We're going on an adventure, somewhere peaceful." Rodriguez personally oversaw their secure transit. And then the moment came. The goodbye. Lauren said farewell to Eastfield, the city where she had fallen in love, gotten married, carried her child, and suffered her darkest betrayal. Mark had been sentenced to 12 years, but Lauren had been sentenced to his shadow. The kind of sentence that lingers in every corner of the dark, long after the man is locked away. As the train pulled out toward Oregon, Lauren held Hope in her lap. The baby was 6 months old now, smiling in her sleep. Her tiny fingers wrapped around a soft plush bunny, the same one Rodriguez had given her at birth. Lauren stared out the window, watching the city lights of her past drift farther and farther away. Brian leaned closer. "You okay?" Lauren didn't pretend. She just nodded slowly and said, "No, but I will be." Friends, if you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel.